Hey guys, welcome to the video on Bharat and Germany. In this video, I have a very special guest with me, Sahil, and he's going to tell us about his experience of studying in a completely different country and then afterwards finding a job in Germany. So, Sahil, welcome to the channel. Tell us a bit about your story and tell us how did you manage to do what you did right now?
Perfect. Hi, Bharat. First of all, thank you for having me on the channel. For the audience, my name is Sahil. I originally come from North India, from a city called as Faridabad. At the moment, I'm living in Sweden, in the south of Sweden, in a city called as Lund. I came here last year to do my master's at Lund University, which is one of the top ranked universities in the world. And as Bharat just mentioned, I was fortunate enough to get a job in Germany, and yeah, that would be my next step after this.
Hmm. So, what motivated you to go to Sweden? Because I know, so I had a talk with a YouTuber who is making videos about Sweden and stuff, and he told me that education generally is not free in Sweden. So what was your experience of studying in Sweden? What was the tuition fee and things like that?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, first of all, Sweden is not free as Germany, so you have to pay a tuition fee.
Hmm.
For my course in specific, I was supposed to pay a tuition fee of 12,000 euros for 1 year.
Hmm.
But I was fortunate to get a scholarship, because of which my majority of tuition fee got waived off.
Hmm.
And that's why I started considering Sweden more carefully. In the beginning, my motivation was to go to Germany, but unfortunately, my marks in bachelor's were not that great. So
Hmm.
I knew that getting into a top like German university would be tricky. And
Yeah.
when I started looking at the universities across the world, I wanted to go in a top 100 university. That was, for some reason, my defined criteria.
Hmm.
Uh, so I found this university which was in the top 100. I got a scholarship, so my tuition fee became comparable with the German universities.
Hmm.
And in general, the reputation of Swedish education is, if not comparable, a bit. It's equally good as Germany,
Hmm.
because I have a lot of German friends here who moved here along with me, and I asked them, why did you come here and not study back in Germany itself?
Yeah.
They told me that Germans, they have a nice perception of Sweden, so they also value
Yeah.
Swedish
Yeah.
education. So from that point of view, it made a lot of sense after I met them as well. So that
Absolutely. I think I can second that here. And so Germans I feel they have this classic case of grass is greener on the other side. I tell you, so we met a lot of German friends who want to come to Denmark because they're yeah,
Mhm.
we are not happy in Germany. We go to Denmark, we go to Sweden, we go to Norway, and
Yeah.
the top of the tip of the iceberg for them is always Switzerland. It's if they make it into Switzerland, nice salaries, nice scenery, and everything. And that's pretty much how I think Germany also feels. And for us, Indians coming to Europe is a big thing, and then for them going out is then another thing.
Yeah, I can also second that. I've
Hmm.
heard people talking about going to Switzerland because of high salaries, and even Belgium for that matter. People also value Belgium a lot because the salaries are higher there.
Hmm. Hmm. So, how was your studying experience so far? And also tell me about how did you manage to go through the winters in Sweden?
I mean, the winters, I'll talk. These are two questions. So
Yeah.
I'll tackle the winter part first. Uh, it was not easy, to be really frank, because coming from India, especially from the north of India, you are used to one type of weather. So for me, I was struggling in the middle, in the beginning, to tackle with it. I took a shortcut. So when the winters came, I went to India for three
Mm-hmm.
weeks. So I could skip it. But whatever I saw, it's not easy, but you get used to it. I'm assuming that in case I would have stayed here for this year as well, I would have been more used to handling it. But you can get you it grows on you and you tackle it somehow. And coming to Sweden, the education, I mean, I think it was difficult and plus different for sure, more different than difficult, I would say. Considering that in India we have a, I'm sure you're also aware of
Yeah,
how
yeah.
studies happen, and in
Which
Germany,
university were you in, Sahil?
in India.
Yeah.
Okay, I went to a university called as Maharishi Dyanand University. It's called
Rohtak?
MDU. Rohtak, yes,
Ah,
yes. Have you heard of it?
बढ़िया. Of course. I mean, I'm from Haryana too. So I studied in Murthal. I don't know if you know it, Deen Bandhu
Yeah.
Chhoturam University.
Uh-huh, uh-huh. I've heard of it. So,
Yeah, yeah.
okay,
Nice.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I went to MDU, which I thought gave me a bit of disadvantage compared to people who were coming from better colleges and applying to European universities. But in general, I think overall, I kind of enjoyed studying here because the studies, at least in my course for sure, was extremely practical. And the emphasis on theoretical knowledge was way lesser. compared to how it's taught in Indian universities.
Mhm.
Other than that, I think a lot of another big factor which I really value is the international exposure. Like I talked, like my class in general had 26 nationalities, and I was the only Indian in my class. So
Mhm.
overall, from that point of view as well, along with education, I got a different perspective towards life, which I think is the biggest takeaway from this education.
That's actually very interesting. So, like, the one thing I always tell people who think about coming to to Germany for English taught programs, I say, like, it will be you and many other Indian students and many other Pakistani students and many other Bangladeshi students and many other Sri Lankan students. And
Mm-hmm.
generally, you will find a lot less German studying in English in German universities, of course, because they have always studied in German. So for them, the logical thing is to like not let their grades suffer essentially, and like study in German taught programs afterwards. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why I personally think, like, if you want to come to Germany and stuff, like regional languages, like for most of the fields, like it play a massive role. I can tell you from my civil engineering experience, like you have all of the paperwork with the authorities, in German. When the checking engineer takes a look at your designs and has to submit it to the final public authorities, again in German. You go to the construction site, you have to talk to the architects or workers, again in German. So I think in those kind of scenarios, if you think about living in Germany a long time, like German already makes sense. I think it's pretty much the same in every single European country that you think about going. Like the national language is very important. Did
As
you
well.
feel like, I know that like Scandinavian people, like they have very good English, we see it in Denmark,
Mm-hmm.
but did you also like have some kind of, let's say, you wish that you knew Swedish or something like that?
Not at all whatsoever. Because
Okay.
I mean, I think if you look at the ranking as well, the Nordic countries, they speak the most fluent English across
Yeah.
the world. And one thing which I think I've heard, I've not been to Germany yet, but I've heard that in Germany they have a higher affinity towards their language, so they can give you a hard time if you don't speak to them in German in certain cases.
Yeah.
But in Sweden, I think a lot of people are comfortable talking in English. So they, what happens is occasionally they might start talking to you in Swedish,
Hmm.
but as long as you say whatever, like some sentence, they quickly switch to English, and there's no problem whatsoever.
Hmm.
In the beginning, I was planning on learning Swedish because I thought I'm going to a new country, I want to learn the language as well. But because uh, it was a 1 year master's, I had less time, and in general, because the language was never a problem, I never properly learned Swedish as well. So you
Hmm.
can get away without knowing zero Swedish here.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
not a problem.
Pretty nice. So how did you end up like with Germany? So like how did the entire story begin there?
I mean, I will give you a slight background about my previous background as well.
Hmm.
So I studied computer science in my bachelor's, and I was working for 3 to 4 years in India in the field of product management. So I wanted to continue that after my master's. So my choice to Germany switched primarily because there were a lot of companies there who were hiring in this particular domain. Uh, and plus, because Germany is a bigger market in general, the number of openings there were also really high compared to Sweden. So I think after 1 month of job hunting, I kind of realized that there's a higher possibility of me landing up in Germany than compared to say Sweden for that matter, because the application that I was making were primarily in Germany. So that was how I landed up there as well. I have a lot of German friends here who kind of gave me an insight into the German market, and that also got me excited about how opportunities are there, and in general how the entire country has been laid out. So that's primarily why I kind of landed up or would land up in Germany
Hmm.
eventually.
That's very nice. So take me into a bit more detail, because like I'm always interested in more details that also like gives the viewers more value. So like
Mhm.
how did you start with the job search, and like what kind of things did you learn through it? What kind of things did you have to optimize it? Where did you look for jobs and so on?
Mhm. Okay, just to give you a small idea, like a small another additional factor which really helped me this time
Hmm.
was that I'm extremely active on LinkedIn.
Hmm.
So this is one habit which I picked up back in India itself. So I knew how to make good use of LinkedIn. So when I came here, I kind of stuck to my old guns and kept using LinkedIn for all the opportunities. So I did not use any other platform whatsoever. So every morning I had some alerts on. So I used to receive some notifications from LinkedIn about new opportunities coming up. And just by applying smart filters and reaching out to people via LinkedIn, I was able to uh, understand as to how to approach this particular job hunting criteria. So just to give you a small like filtering criteria which I use on LinkedIn. So what I used to do was I kind of defined which geographies I wanted to target. For example, in Germany, I was targeting Berlin, Frankfurt, Stuttgart, certain geographies, and not the entire Germany. And then only look at certain job postings which are posted in the last few days, and also target applications which had less number of applicants, or strategically choose where I was applying,
Mm-hmm.
because I thought if I apply to every opportunity, then I would be just wasting my time, and not, because it takes a lot of time for you to make a cover letter, to make your CVs, or to customize your CV for that particular opportunity. So I kind of strategically decided which opportunities I wanted to target and apply for. Uh, that was primarily what I was doing. What I basically learned in the process was, I think if you apply for a good job in India versus how you apply for a job in Germany, the process in general will not be drastically different. There would be a bit more blockers, because for some jobs they would be requirement for German, and that might become a deal breaker for them. There could be issues with you not having exposure to the international market for them. So there are certain blockers which kind of make your application difficult. Uh, One thing which I kind of struggled with, and I kind of found a way around it later on, was that all the opportunities that I was applying for, they were all mid-career jobs. So like with 3 years plus of experience. So my experience is just marginally above 3 years. So, and there could be applicants with 7 years of experience applying for the same job, 8 years of experience applying for the same job. So at times, my profile in general, after the first few stages, became less appealing to them. And that was a big problem which I faced. One thing through which I kind of covered it was I showed a lot more interest in the company. So I kind of wrote to the HR separately. I also sometimes wrote to the co-founders of the company to show them I was interested. So kind of build my own profile in their own minds and show that I was really interested to work with them. And that really helped me to take me forward into the interview cycles. And I think eventually the opportunity that I was able to get, all these factors combined, which I was able to learn in my 2 months of job hunting, gave me an insight as to what could be done.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I kind of implemented as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Interesting. And um, so of course, I mean, I think like LinkedIn is a very important platform, and like many people should like start using it. I will always say have a habit of like at least using 30 minutes of like LinkedIn and like just connecting to new people in your field. That always pans out. And also like there's a huge difference between like this active engagement versus passive engagement. So like if you're just like liking the post or you're just reading the post and stuff, you're not like letting other person know about your existence, even if you think like you're going to like the post and like that is going to like magically let them know, or they're going to remember that okay, this person liked my post or something. No, like what they remember for is like when you write something meaningful, when you read through the article or something what they've posted, and when you add value to it. So like this kind of like active engagement like also really helps. So like let's talk a bit about, let's say, how were you, let's say, engaging with your LinkedIn network? So what were the practices that you were following? A bit more in detail there.
Mhm. I mean, that's a valid point. I've also seen you have made videos about this particular topic about active and passive engagement, and they're extremely relevant. Like for example, if you like somebody's post, uh, it doesn't really give them an insight of who you are, and they might not even remember you if you go back to them with any kind of like any kind of request for that matter. I think the first process or the first touch point where you can build your relationship is when you send them a connection request. So what I used to do was every time I send them a request, I gave them a reason to accept my request. For example, if I was approaching a product manager in Germany, I gave them a reason that I want to be in touch with you because I want to do this. And I can also add value to your network by doing this. And that was one reason, I think, through which my conversion rate of people accepting my connection requests went up. So there was always one message in our chat box on LinkedIn where I had approached them and they also replied me back afterwards. So that was after that process was done, and they came into my feed. I used to casually and actively sometimes engage with their posts to give them an insight of how I think and what kind of like professional I am. And there used to be like a passive or active engagement over comments on those posts, which kind of helped me build those relationships with them. If I did see any value, like I wanted to have a deeper connection with them, then like I used to also have like normal conversations with them, like I asked them to have a Zoom call with me and have a call with me,
Mhm.
just to ask them certain doubts which I had, or just to have a normal conversation with them. I didn't do that like with a lot of people, but with some people with whom I really wanted to be in touch with and build a stronger network with, I also had conversations with them.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, I think in general, if you follow somebody on LinkedIn, and you know that what kind of post they're posting, you kind of also passively understand what kind of person he is. And so next time when you reach out to them through any kind of messaging, you can customize your messaging according to what you've observed over the months of being connected with them. So that is one thing which I also did. Like for example, if I was sending a message to anybody, I would just go in their post on LinkedIn and just see what kind of post they have been making, and then customize my message according to what kind of person they are. So I think that also really helped me when I was asking them for any kind of favor or any kind of request that I had, and that's how I was able to utilize LinkedIn as a way of networking and
Mm-hmm.
talking to people.
Yeah, that's actually a very good trick. Like always go to the posts anyways, like take a look at what kind of things they've been posting, and like that really helps you customize things better. And I think like it's also about like not being lazy. So many people feel like just like sending a connection request and the other person will just accept it, like, without you sending a personal note or something. Like you can bet on that, but like if that connection is important enough for you that like it is going to take you to a better place, then like spend some extra time and like make them feel special. That always helps. And so how did you land your final job then? So like you told me like it's directly via LinkedIn, so like how did the entire process went?
I mean, if you apply via LinkedIn for opportunities, there are multiple ways through which you can engage with the recruiting manager. Uh, One way is in case you know that the job posting was posted by this particular hiring manager or this particular HR, you can directly send them a message on LinkedIn. If you're not connected with them and you invest a bit in LinkedIn Premium, you can send them an email and get into their inboxes.
Mm-hmm.
Or primarily through LinkedIn, there are two ways through which you can apply for jobs. One is the easy apply option, which I don't think makes a lot of difference, and it is not that appealing for the recruiter as well in case you apply through an easy apply option. The second option is that on LinkedIn, people like redirect you to their own career websites where you go and apply. In most cases, the second option was the primary option for me that I was using. So this particular opportunity as well, I went to their career website, I uploaded a cover letter, I uploaded my CV, I answered any other question that they might have asked during the application process. And then typically, I think in Germany, it takes a bit longer for people to get back to you
Yeah,
after they receive your application.
it's a
Uh,
given. Like once you write them an email, it's given like, yeah, it will take 2-3 days, like it will be right back to you.
yeah, like for emails it take longer, and even if you apply for a job opportunity, they might take up to a month as well. It has
Yeah,
happened with me, not in every case, but it might happen.
yeah, yeah.
So you have to be really patient in the process. So the worst part that I was struggling with was when I started like applying for jobs, I wasn't getting any feedback of what is working for me and what's not working for me, because it was taking weeks for them to get back to me.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, I kind of like found patterns in my applications. So I had made like different variants, like so basically how you do A/B testing. I was doing A/B testing with my applications and just observing what is the conversion rate on both the applications,
Mm-hmm.
or like whatever variants of application that I was making. Over a period, I was able to crack one template which worked the best for me and had the highest conversion rate. So for this particular job, I had a cracked template which I kind of used, and that kind of got me my first interview call. And then after the interviewing call, I think it's similar, or rather, I mean, if you apply as I said in the beginning as well, if you apply to like a nicer Indian company, the process of application would be similar.
Mm-hmm.
So I think in this particular case as well, it kind of I was kind of like aware of it, and I was able to tackle it. One thing which I think German universities keep an eye on, and probably some of the Indian companies might not do, is they're really selective with who they hire. I mean, because of the laws as well, that they have difficulties in firing a person if they hire them, so they're really selective. But otherwise as well, I think the German people, they're because the kind of people they're really strategic in terms of how they talk to people, and they're really good at like understanding what kind of person you are. So if you don't get back to them with the answer that they want, then it could be a deal breaker for them. Whereas with Indian people, it could be easier to somehow tackle that in the next interview rounds. So that's one thing which I realized, and I was really careful that when I was like preparing for an interview, I prepared my own notes as to what they're doing and what I need to mention in my interview calls, and also have an equation with them wherein they felt I was a valuable asset to the company, and they wanted to take me forward.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting because like you're a computer science engineer, but like a lot of the things that you do is like what you learned, like, from a marketing studies or something, like, kind of figuring out, okay, this is happening, but let's think why this is happening, like, the back mindset of things. But pretty solid. That's very nice. Um, Now here also, do you have now any kind of story where you have seen, like, a lot of like easy apply these like jobs and stuff on LinkedIn? Did you like try them out too?
I mean, I did try them,
Yeah.
but in my case, like most of the easy applications that I made, I always got a rejection from them.
The
Uh,
the thing is, I also feel the same, Sahil. So I was hiring people like over LinkedIn.
mhm.
And what happened was sometimes people would just like, you lose a track of like how many people are just clicking on easy apply. They don't see
Yeah.
like what is happening. So I think like maybe easy apply is not the best way to like essentially go about things. Like if I find some kind of like email of the person when I see like easy apply, then I recommend people to actually like, go and talk to the person directly. Or if you find a contact person on their website, on the company website, or a career portal, like, see if that job is also available there and like try there.
hmm I mean, that's a really valid point, Bharat. I also vouch for that because, I mean, what happens is when you apply for an easy apply, like when you apply through easy apply option, you also miss out on certain details, which you only see when you're applying through the career websites or through other mechanisms. Because, for example, in Germany, it might happen that for a particular job opening, German is a requirement for them. And if you're applying as a via easy apply, you just might miss that particular sentence,
Mm,
and they will obviously reject you because for them German was a requirement, and
mm,
it could be demotivating factor for you that okay, they rejected me for no reason and my application was relevant in your own mind,
mm,
whereas you miss certain details while applying via easy apply as well.
mhm.
uh, and in general, I think if a lot of people, if there's easiness in applying, a lot of people would apply,
Yeah.
and then your application will not stand out because there is nothing standing making you apart.
Yeah.
For example, if you apply through career portals, then you can upload a cover letter, you can upload certain customized messaging. Whereas in using easy apply, usually it's just upload your CV and just send it, and there's no competitive edge to your application which you
Yeah.
can achieve if you apply through their career websites, which I think also adds to the inefficiency of easy apply.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe 100% the same. I think like easy apply, maybe LinkedIn tried to do something better, but I personally think like, for example, for me as somebody who was hiring people, it was just it became very difficult to keep a track of people. And I think like for other people like who see this option, like even if they are not completely like relevant, they just like, can get demotivated by these constant rejections. You're right there. Now, how is going to be the next process look like? Like, did some research because now you're in Sweden, and like then you're just going to like move to Germany, do your city registration, go to the foreigners office, like register yourself there. Did they talk to you about something? Do you already have a work contract?
I mean, I have a work contract, but the next steps before I can move to Germany and start working there legally is me to apply to get a visa from the German embassy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's slightly giving me a hard time
Mm-hmm.
because it's hard to find appointments with the German embassy.
Same in
I thought,
Sweden.
uh, yeah, at the moment, yes,
Okay.
because I think because it's summer and a lot of people are traveling and there's not a lot of people working from the office,
Mm-hmm.
so that's giving me a hard time. But once I get through that particular step, I think the next step, as you said as well, would be the city registration, the tax number generation,
Mm-hmm.
the health insurance registration. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not quite familiar with everything, but the company that I would be working for, they have provided me assistance, or they would be providing me assistance with all the smaller details. So I haven't done a lot of research on that myself because I'm assuming that they will sort out the process for me.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, I think these steps would be involved, like certain things which I mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as you get your visa, then doing the city registration, like also finding the accommodation, because city registration happens with there's this Wohnungsgeberbescheinigung, or like just a confirmation from the landlord that you're staying in that place. You have to go with that, your passport, visa, register yourself. With this registration, you can go to the Finanzamt and get your tax ID number from there. and this tax ID number stays with you your entire life. So like it's very important. Then you have, like, there are multiple different numbers. You will have Sozialversicherungsnummer, so like social security number, that will be different. Then you will have a pension number that is going to be different. So like, just keep a track of all of these things. But I think, like, yeah, if the company like they have been hiring like foreigners, so I think like that will really not be a big problem.
Yeah, that's also what I'm banking on.
Hmm.
But there's one thing which I've realized, that in Germany, everything takes a bit more time because they
Yes,
like paperwork, they
100%.
like collecting papers. So,
I
uh,
hate that part of Germany. Like, I can tell you that. I think they definitely have some things done better. For example, like when we open some bank accounts or something, or like when we open a broker, like what happens is like we can directly, like, identify ourselves completely online, takes a few minutes, and all of those processes happen like very quickly. So like these digital verifications, that is something that they have been able to, like, done rather nicely. But all of the paperwork still happens. Like right now we have moved to Romania, right? And like now in the summers we live in Denmark, and we really love it here. But I still receive papers from the Finanzamt, from like, let's say when you hire an employee. I hired an employee in Germany, so you also get papers from this association of employees, and like to pay some kind of like this um, accident insurance, something like that, even though like it's a home office job or something. So you keep on receiving these documents. The health insurance company sent us the documents to our Romanian address because they just had to. I said, like, I don't care about the money. You just directly give me an invoice directly on email. I don't need to receive the papers. And I think this is something I find very different in Romania, for example. We don't receive anything, not a single paper. Everything is like, directly digital. I think India is also like catching up in like many ways, like with being digital and so on. So Germany has to definitely catch up in that part.
yeah, I can also tell you a bit about Sweden as well in this
Hmm.
particular regards.
Yes,
I mean,
please.
in Sweden, everything happens digitally. So if you apply for any paperwork, you can just make an application online. But they would also send you one confirmation via post. It's
Hmm.
not required because they also send you an email for it. But they
Hmm.
will also send you one post for it. So uh, I kind of found this particular part also really unnecessary.
Yeah.
But I've heard that Germany,
uh,
it takes it to a new level. They
you're in
want to
for a
send
ride.
you.
You're in for a ride, man. Once you like come to Germany, I tell you, it will not be every single week or every single month, anyways. Like you will receive some sort of like letters. Also, your pay slips, they're going to come to you via a paper form every single time. And like
Okay.
sometimes you have to have, I remember like Alina had like such a big folder where she just has the pay slips inside. And I was like, can't they just like scan it and like send us digitally? Like, what is the problem? I don't know, man. So yeah, you will learn a lot of like interesting things. But one thing that I like, for example, about Germany is like Germany is as close to like US as you can find essentially in Western Europe, because they still believe in like, making money and stuff, and like, producing different kind of products, and taxes are still like decent. So our case was different. Like, if you're making half a million euros every single year, then I think like it just becomes very bad, like 48% taxes or something. But if it's like anywhere below 100,000, I think like the value that you get of the taxes that you're paying, that's very nice. So like I could have never complained about these things at that time. I also like didn't complain, like unless the business picked up. So I think you will like that part for sure. I think the health insurance stuff, like that's pretty decent, that you never have to pay from your pocket. But I think you know it from Sweden too. Sweden also has pretty nice health insurance. We also see it in Denmark. You just have this yellow card, and like you go to any doctor whatsoever, and you never have to pay anything. So pretty solid. So yeah, any other tips that you have to share with us, Sahil?
I mean, regarding job applications or studying in Sweden?
Anything, whatever you feel like.
Okay. I think for job applications, one thing which I would recommend is starting early, because if you come from a different country, your thought process has been defined or shaped from working there, whereas here the requirements might be different. So if you wanna have a good start after you graduate, it's always good option to start early. How you define early, it could be subjective, but I would say
Yeah.
at least 4 to 5 months before you're graduating
Yeah.
could be a nice buffer period to have.
Mm.
Uh, Other than that, I think in the beginning, once you move to any new country, there would be some, I would say, getting acclimatized to. because you come to a new country. The systems are different. Yeah, just be patient in that particular process, because once you get through it, you will see logics in those particular processes as well. I mean, I'm sure there would be some logic in Germany sending a lot of paperwork as well, which we both don't see. But
Doesn't see any logic there. It's 100% without logic, sir. Like it's stupid.
not, maybe this is not the best example, but in certain cases there could be some logic behind it, and
Mm,
I got to see certain logics after a certain point, after coming here. So just be patient in the process, and overall just enjoy like this experience, because it doesn't matter whether you stay here or go back, the whatever experience that you would have learned or taken or acquired during this particular time abroad would shape your mindset, and just keep it, and it would really help you grow as a person as well. These are all general tips, nothing fancy about it, but I think these are some basic things which people tend to neglect, and I think that's what you should try, like value once you're here.
mm. I think one very important thing that I can take away from this call is, like, first of all, to anybody who's watching, like, just make sure that you don't take your LinkedIn platform, your LinkedIn profile, just casually. You can find some very nice leads there. So spend some time and learn from all of the experiences that Sahil has shared in this video and apply them. They're going to be very useful to you. Thank you so much, Sahil, for joining in. And thank you so much, guys. We'll see each other next time. Bye.